How is it going, everyone? Welcome in to the coffee break. I'm your host, Hunter Thomas, as always. A little bit different setting today. I'm at my house, so you might see some. Actually, if you're looking, you do see some discs behind me and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I'm recording this on the 23rd, Monday, and we have off today through Christmas. So, figured, you know what? I still wanted to get coffee break in. I love doing it and wanted to stay in the habit of doing it every week. So I'm recording it on my home computer, which means I'm hoping you're actually seeing this because this computer is very old, and running any type of software on this is very scary. So fingers crossed this thing works. It seems to be a little jumpy, but other than that, it seems like it's going good. So hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully you can see me. And I hope you have a very Merry Christmas ahead of you, whenever that may when, maybe it was behind you, depending on when you're listening to this. But if you're listening to this when it came out, happy Christmas Eve. Hope you're excited for Christmas tomorrow. We'll get back to work on Thursday and Friday. We had Monday off instead, so that we had like a 5-day vacation basically, and then we're gonna work Thursday, Friday. So we will have new disc releases and restocks and stuff like that on Friday. I don't know exactly what they're going to be, as I'm not in the office, but I know there's some more Innova that didn't make it up yet, and other stuff like that. So we'll get back to our normal routine of everything, and then January is going to bring a lot of fun stuff. Not sure exactly what announcements will be going down, but we have a fourth announcement. Not as big as the first three, but a fourth one I just discovered. And by discovered, I mean had a phone call to lock in a few days ago. So, four big things coming this upcoming first quarter, January, February, sometime in there. So, really excited about all of that. Can't wait to share that with you. And then as those announcements roll out, walk you on coffee break through the behind the scenes of it and what went into making a lot of this stuff happen. So super stoked for all of that. Today's episode, I think we're going to be a little bit shorter than normal. I have some good questions from Instagram and stuff, but I want to kind of next week, I'll probably do a look back at the year, Foundation's year, kind of look back at what went right, what went wrong, what we learned this year, stuff like that. But every year we have some type of break around Christmas, and during that, I try to just kind of reflect on stuff. In general, I think it's just a fun time to do so. And this year specifically, I got this new thing for my phone. This is not sponsored, but shout out to Brick Phone. I bought their product, and essentially it is an app on your phone that you have to have this like physical brick, and it makes your phone a dumb phone. It basically, so when I get home, I have it on my fridge, I tap my phone to it, it makes it where I cannot access any social media, anything like that, unless I tap my phone back to it. So I have to be very intentional on what time I'm giving to social media and what time I'm giving to things that could be a distraction. And so what it's led to is, for instance, we'll just look at my screen time. Today, it's 1 o'clock. I've been on my phone for 45 minutes today. Yesterday, all day, I was on my phone for 45 minutes. Today, I've had to prep stuff for this show, post stuff on Instagram. So, funny enough, my busiest app of the day has been the Brick. Funny enough, last week, after getting the Brick, I averaged an hour and like 20 minutes on my phone, average hour and 30 minutes actually on my phone. Prior to that, I was averaging like close to 4.5 hours, which I think still in general wasn't that bad. But when you look at like how little time we have with my family and with friends and stuff like that, 4.5 hours is a lot of time. So I got it, and it's been awesome. So I've had now for like 4 or 5 days, but these last 3 days where it's just been me and my family, with like no, because basically the only thing I can do is I can get text messages, I can make phone calls, I can like check, my credit card statements. I basically just have my like bank stuff, credit card stuff, text, phone call. That's it. So basically my phone is just for that. So I can be reached if something happens where I need to. I can go over to the fridge, which is where the Brick is. It's magnetic, so it's just sticking to our fridge. I can go over there and tap it if I like have to go check something, have to do something for work. But what I've been trying to do is, if that comes up, open my laptop. Nothing's come up yet, but I'm gonna just use my laptop because you're less likely to get sucked into just doom scrolling on social media. All of that to say, a long roundabout way to say, I've had a lot more time to just reflect, because like I don't even at this point, which is awesome, Before I would say I was moderately addicted to my phone, where like if I had free time I was going to pick my phone up. But now the first day I picked my phone up a bunch and like would scroll, and like I was literally just going to messages and like reading old messages or looking at old pictures, and I was like, what am I doing? Like there's nothing to do on this thing. Whereas before I would have just like scrolled and scrolled and scrolled on Instagram. And so now a few days later I literally have no urge to even pick my phone up. Like I'll go leave it and go into a different room and I won't even remember where I put my phone, which is very odd for me. So that's been awesome. And as I was thinking back of like where foundation is today versus what's different in today's foundation versus 3 years ago foundation, and the biggest thing that came to me is the way that we've over the years diversified our income sources, our revenue sources. If you go back to the very beginning, the very basics, we basically had our online store and then social media. And social media was just YouTube. And YouTube was just ad revenue. If you fast forward to today, now within the online store, we have our subscription box. That's a monthly subscription box. We have just our online store sales. We now have our app that we do different stuff on. We go live on, and so that's a different revenue source. The app brings in additional revenue that way. We now have our text deals that go out once a week, and so that's another additional revenue source. So that's all the online store. I'm sure there's one I'm forgetting too, but those four: online store. Then we have our in-person store, which we didn't have years ago. So in-person store, and we vend. So that's another two. So we're at six there. Then if you go over to what we're launching this week within social media, we have our whatnot streams we're going to start doing. So that's number 7. And then within our actual social media, we now have our main channel. We have multiple podcasts, but we'll put all of that. You just get Google AdSense revenue. So that's one. Then we now get paid from Instagram ad revenue. There's another. And then we have brand deals. There's another. And so I think that's the only way. Oh, and affiliate links. So now if you look at it, we have like 11 or 12 different income streams, right? Different revenue streams. And why I think that's important is if you look at this year versus last year, like a lot of those revenue sources are up, but there are some that are down, right? So there's some that have like become less popular, we've put less attention to, or whatever, but you don't feel it because there's so many other to hold you up. And I think that that's just a really important thing within business, and as you grow, is to increase the amount of revenue sources you have, then take stress off of all the other ones. And as long as you're not spreading yourself too thin, you can actually grow them all and then exponentially grow your top line and hopefully your bottom line. Top line being the main revenue that's at the top of your P&L, profit and loss sheet. And the bottom line is obviously the bottom line of the P&L sheet, which is once you take all the expenses and everything off, that's your profit. So the top line revenue you can grow by increasing your amount of revenue sources, where now, let's say that before, when we just had our online store and our AdSense, well, in January, Google's AdSense, oh, I forgot about Patreon. We have Patreon too. Google AdSense is slower in January because Q1, less people are spending money on marketing. Most of the marketing is spent in Q4. So January, February, AdSense slows up. But that AdSense slowing up can be offset by now. We do our Patreon registration happens in January for our Heiser Club championship. So now Patreon increases, and that can offset the Google AdSense hit we take. Or maybe both of those are down, but then online retail's up because Simon went to MVP. Or maybe all of that's down, but we have a sick box for the subscription box. You get the point, right? Of where it gives you more, and it gives your audience more different ways, where maybe some people don't like watching the podcast, but they love watching the YouTube channel. And then maybe some of them who watch the YouTube channel don't like shopping online, but they do love shopping in an app. Or maybe they don't like getting text deals, but they do like watching live streams. And so now you can hit people where they're at in different ways. And it makes it a lot easier and a lot less stressful to build a business you can actually rely on consistent revenue from, versus when it's one thing. If that one thing slows down, well, now you're a little bit more screwed. And I think that's even important with your personal finance and personal life, right? Is like when it comes to money, it's, obviously if you have a W-2 job where you just have a paycheck coming every other week, that's obviously very dependable as long as the company you're working for is very dependable and your job's safe. But then the second that goes away, are you screwed? For a lot of people, that's a yes. So like having, and you need free time and you need a desire to do it, but having some type of side income is huge, because then Well, if your normal biweekly paycheck, if you're not an entrepreneur, that's not going to slow up, right? That's going to just keep churning. But now you have a little bit more spending money, or now you have a little bit of breathing room to attack some debt, or maybe now you have a little bit of breathing room to save for your kids' college or whatever. So having like different revenue streams is really important for a business, but then also for personal life, of having, maybe you flip stuff on the side for on eBay, or you're really good at painting, so on the weekends you paint here and there, or whatever it might be. I was just, as I was reflecting on that, I was like, what, that's actually something that it wasn't super intentional of, like, we looked at in 2022 and all of a sudden we were like, we need to diversify our revenue sources. It's just something that kind of is a natural progression for business, of you will find new revenue sources, pour time and energy into it. We're going to be developing, like I said, Whatnot. Our first Whatnot stream happens in 2 days. If you haven't checked us out over there, give us a follow. It's already scheduled. We're going to be auctioning off a bunch of used discs and also some discs out of our bags. So that's going to be fun, but that's something we're going to do probably every other week, roughly. And we'll rotate what we're auctioning off on there. But like, we have that, and then we're developing another completely new revenue source for us probably towards the end of the first quarter. That's one of the big 4 announcements we got coming. Super excited about that. That's coming probably February, March range, but we'll give you more information as that approaches. But those things, like, it just kind of is a natural progression. You don't really think of it, but when you look back, it's like so obvious, right? Like, as I look back, I'm like, oh, duh, that makes a lot of sense of why it's less stressful today versus back then. Because if our online store slows up, we have the consistency of the subscription box. If the subscription box is having a down month, but the text deals was great this month, or whatever, like, there's so many things that can help balance to where you can have a much more consistent revenue to rely on. So that might not mean anything to any of y'all, but I thought it was cool looking back on it. And typically, if I'm excited about something, at least someone is excited about something. So without further ado, let's get into some questions. These all came from Instagram. Again, if you're not following me on Instagram, I'd appreciate it if you did, and then you can get your questions in. This is an interesting one from Nemo's in Space. He said, why can some people stand still and throw massive distance, and some people can take a full run up, throw super hard, and seemingly have great form, yet throw shorter? Simplest answer to this is typically timing. The run up doesn't, like, a run up, it can add a little bit of speed into your throw, but it's more so to get your body into certain positions and add speed. So if you're just adding speed, but your run up's not effective, or you don't have a good brace at the end of your run up, or your timing's messed up, then none of what you just did is going to matter, because it's not going to transfer to the throw. And that's why someone with really good timing and in a standstill will actually be able to throw it farther, because they might be able to get their body into the right position, have the timing, have the hips fire, have the brace happen, all of that, and transfer more of that power into the disc, versus all of this buildup just for my arm to get ahead of everything, and the power I'm building with my legs not to transfer into the disc, and then I don't brace, and so all of my momentum carries forward, and all of that energy I built up goes into me falling instead of into the disc, and then it's just not effective. So a run up and everything, when done right, is the way you'll throw the disc the farthest. But that's why if you watch my, there's a lot I disagree with how I taught the backhand originally, but the backhand tutorial I did, one thing I'll always stand by is, when you're first starting out, learn to throw standstill, because that's the easiest, most repeatable way to get your timing down, so that then you can build the X step into it. I think that's really important, because there's going to be there's a lot of people who can just throw farther standstill than X step, because your X step messes up your timing, and timing's the most important thing in disc golf. So Easy Par Disc Golf says, where do you think disc golf will be in 10 years? Will there be major growth? I think over the 10 years, yes, there will be major growth. Will there be another COVID spike? Who knows? To be honest with you, with disc golf, I think that it requires something that stops people from doing other things they love. So for that to happen on a mass scale, it typically would have to be a pretty bad event for the world at large, similar to the pandemic, similar to a recession or economic collapse. So I think as disc golfers, it's not really wise to hope for another massive spike. Because I think it's going to be hard to generate that type of interest when people have so many other things with money behind them bidding for their attention. But when people do try disc golf, they do love it. So I think that it will continue to grow, because the other thing is, once courses go in, it almost takes more effort to get the course out than to just maintain it. So unless parks are getting redesigned or something like that, or land's getting used for something else, courses aren't really going to come out because the maintenance is not that drastic. So the more courses will keep going in, and the more courses that get in, the more exposure the course has, and the more exposure the course has, the more people are going to play it, and the more people play it, the more disc golf grows. And as long as there's more people getting into the sport than there are people leaving the sport, disc golf will continue to grow. So I would imagine disc golf will continue to grow at that like 15% rate we always have seen, as long as everyone continues to attempt to grow the sport. And if that keeps happening, then 15% every year over the next 10 years means disc golf's in a much bigger place. Will it ever get to being on a like major sport scale? No, I don't think so. It require way too much money to basically, it would be one of the hardest sports to film, similar to golf. And so you would have to have a really deep, rich history and a lot of money already behind the sport to even begin to generate that type of, coverage and stuff like that. So I think that's why it's always going to stall where it is. To be honest with you, the fact that we have the live coverage product we do is very impressive. But to take that to the next level is going to be very difficult. So I think that it'll continue to grow. I think the purses will continue to grow and stuff like that, but I don't think it's going to compete on a huge scale. I think it can be one of the bigger niche sports, right? I think it can always compete with pickleball. I think that's a very realistic goal. And I think it might be able to compete with the popularity of some really, much smaller sports, but I don't think it's ever going to get on the stage of golf, NHL, MLB, NBA, none of that. Way, 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 way far away. Because you also have to think those sports are probably going to grow over the next 10 years too. So Jared Tucker said, where do you think the top free agents will go this offseason? I think that we're in for a very interesting next few weeks, because obviously there's been a lot of rumors and speculations around Isaac Robinson, but we don't know where he's going. His brother's contract's also up. Will they end up at the same place? Will they end up two different places? Who knows there? I think I've heard rumors around some very big names that contracts aren't up, that they're looking to move. Whether that turns into anything, I don't know. But then, there was, we just saw Anthony Barella re-signed. There's no shock there. Re-signed through 2027, and I think he's also getting a disc. You still have Ezra Aderhold, I think, is still on the chopping block. I'd imagine he's going to re-sign with Discraft, but we don't know yet. I think Holland Hanley's up, or one of the FPO players. I believe it's hers up. I think there's like 30 or 40. We've seen some players step away from tour. I think we're going to see more players step away from tour, but I think a lot of it we'll be hearing next week. Like this time next week, stuff's really going to start ramping up because there's just so many announcements that are yet to be made. So we shall see. Time will tell. But where do I think the top ones will go? I think Ezra Aderhold, Adam Hamez, I know they were both up. I think they're going to stay at Discraft. I think Corey Ellis was up. I could see him moving, but the problem is I don't think he's going to be worth much anywhere. He's just not that popular of a player, but the hard part is he's a major champion, so he's probably going to be asking a bigger price tag than he's worth. I just could see him moving from the aspect that Discraft is so deep that they're going to be looking to, trim it up a little bit, I think. Especially are they ones that might land Isaac and or Ezra? Maybe, and, that's going to require more budget. They also have the Climo thing, so that's all interesting. Isaac, I saw a bunch of rumors and speculation of him with Latitude 64. I don't love the move, but I think it could work out. I haven't heard anything with his brother following him. So I'm curious that, will they... It's more Ezra question. Like, would Ezra want... Excuse me. Ezra and him have always thrown the same plastic as far as I'm aware. Isaac went to MVP for a little bit. I don't know if Ezra was there too, but they've both been with Prodigy for a while. So is that something that they both like, throwing the same plastic? If so, then is Ezra following him to Latitude if that ends up being true? Or is Ezra going to blaze his own path? Who knows? I think that's going to be very interesting. But we will see. Chris Chris Nitty said, what's the process like for brainstorming video ideas? At this point, we don't really have, we used to have like brainstorming meetings, but now we have so many series that we do, the break series, the course conquest series, our monthly match, starter sets, weird discs, stuff like that, where we rotate through all of those. Some of them are every month, some of them are every other month, whatever it may be. Some of them are just whenever there's a new starter set that looks interesting. So those we don't really have to brainstorm anymore. So then it's just the additional videos. Typically what will happen is there'll be a comment that sparks something. Most of the time when an idea comes from the comment section, it's like close, but then we have to like tweak it a little bit to make it fit our vibe or make it be a better video versus a better game, yada, yada, yada. So that'll be some of them are just, we see a different content creator do something cool, like Good Golf do something. That's where Imposter came from, is they would play Among Us Golf, and we like looked at it and then thought, how do we turn this into something? And that's what became Imposter. So that's what it looks like nowadays. We don't really have like a sit down brainstorm content meeting. It's more like as ideas come to us, we tell Trevor writes them down, and then when it's time to fill in the schedule, he'll go through and workshop those out. So Seth Peterson said, will Foundation ever produce competitive disc golf content? Example, tournaments, etc. No, we will not. I mean, I'll never say never, but I don't see any benefit to it. I like the fact that we can make content and build the company the way we've built it, where we aren't reliant on anyone else. If the Pro Tour goes under and a new tour came up, or if the Pro Tour brought everything in-house or whatever, none of that affects us. As long as we can go out and play disc golf, that's our main channel. And as long as there is professional disc golf happening, that's the podcast. And so neither of those are reliant on one singular entity. Whereas when you are doing coverage, if you're not covering the top pros, there's not enough interest. If you are covering the top pros, you are now reliant on someone else to feed your business. And I think that's where we see GK Pro now GoThrow kind of at, where whether it sounds like from a Jeff Spring interview that it's not the Pro Tour pushing them out, but maybe they can just see the writing on the wall. And they're like, we need to start our own tour to try to generate our own interest. Good idea. Will it work out? I don't know, because that's a lot of work and a lot of stress, but we saw it. Excuse me, sorry. Big yawn, I'm tired. We saw it with Jomez, where it eventually led to Jomez just being bought out, basically absorbed by the Pro Tour. Gatekeeper Media, I don't know what they're up to anymore. Central Coast Disc Golf, they don't really do much anymore. So that's, to me, I just don't really see the market for it currently. And I think it just makes more sense for us to be able to make the content we make without the need of pros. Because then you don't have to worry about anyone else. You can just do it yourself. So that's why we haven't, and that's why I don't think we will. Let's see. Hunter, Liz, Trevor, Kinsey doubles match soon. Someone just brought up we need to have another wives battle, which wasn't the doubles. I think Liz and Kelsey back in the day had a battle, but we do need to do something like that. It's good. It's a good time. Although it's a lot different now that we all have kids. Because now that involves finding babysitters for everyone. So maybe not. Or maybe we just include them in the video. That could be a little fun twist. Nate says, how many throw-ins have there been collectively within this quarter? No clue. Not many. Connor threw in his wizard during that one video. Is that it? I don't know. Oh, this is a good one. Jacob Harris says, what will you be putting with now? So if y'all don't know, basically what I'm going to do this upcoming year is I'm going to putt every month with the previous month's worst selling putter. Most of the time, it has to at least have sold one so that it, because there's a bunch that we sell zero because like maybe we didn't have, the agent in stock. So that's not exactly fair. So I take the list, look at all the ones that we sold at least one of, and then make sure we have inventory of whichever one I'm choosing, and then choose from there which one I'd like to putt with. So this upcoming month, I'm going to go with the Gateway Voodoo. I used to really like this disc. I actually putted with it outside the circle. It gets overshadowed a lot by the Wizard. It's not technically beadless, but it's basically beadless. So I'm gonna try that out. I'm gonna give it a little try. I'm excited about it. It was between that. Was looking at that, the Ren, and the Omega 4 were the kind of the three ones I was deciding between. And the deciding factor was Gateway went ahead and just sent me 10 Voodoos. And I was like, well, there you go. That makes my life easy. Now I don't have to take any discs out of inventory. I can just put the Voodoo. So I'm going to use that for the month of January. And then the month of February, I'll figure out what's the next putter. But yeah, I'm excited about that. Speaking of putting, Disc Golf Daddy said, what do you do to get out of a putting funk where even 10 footers seem hard? I think one thing to remember is it's between your ears. Putting in general is until you get to like 25 plus feet. I mean, if you take, we literally did this with, we were having this conversation during our like putting league or something. And I was like, if you just give someone a putter and they don't have experience to know this is supposed to be quote unquote hard, or they haven't missed enough putts, then like if you put them at 15 feet, it is easy. Like we're throwing a small disc into a very large basket. Like when you first start out, you call it beginner's luck or whatever, but it's not until like they miss a few and then their mind gets in the way that it gets hard. And we brought him in, and sure enough, he just banged out a few 15 footers, and we all like laughed. It's like, yeah, exactly, it makes perfect sense. So you have to take yourself back to that of like when you're 10 feet away, like you could sneeze and the disc is gonna go in the basket. So for me, sometimes, because I am a terrible putter, I say terrible, I'm not a good putter. And a lot of times I just have to mentally trick myself when I get really nervous. You can go one of two ways. Trevor likes to focus really hard. He likes when he gets to that. If I focus really hard, I start thinking more about I might miss. So I go the opposite way. I try to take the mind completely out of it. So what I'll do is similar to golf. You'll see sometimes when someone has a tap in, they'll just like go on 1 foot and just like basically lose all putting form just because like, hey, just tap it in. I'll do the same thing when I'm going to like 10 feet is I'll just like put my feet together and just toss it in, or like go on 1 foot and just toss it in. Because if I like act really nonchalant and like I don't care and take my mind out of it, then it is just a 10 footer. Now when you get to 15, you need to actually do your routine. Sometimes it can be good. I'm actually doing this right now to switch from your staggered putt, if that's what you do, over to a like straddle putt, because sometimes one just feels easier than the other. And when you're not practicing regularly, just do whatever feels easier. So right now I'm a straddle putter temporarily because I missed a few really bad stagger putts. I have no confidence there. I'm making a lot more straddle putts. I'm a putt with a straddle putt until it flips, and I'll go back. But yeah, I'll just kind of mess around and remember it's in your head, especially from 10 feet. Joseph Tanner said, when can we get another release of the Shark Hunter MD3? No plans to release it again. That was kind of like a video moment release. There's a lot of people that want them, so could we do another run? Maybe. Most likely I see it being like I'll run a different MD3, or maybe it'll end up in a subscription box or something, but I don't really right now have plans because it's such a specific thing. So okay, we're almost at the 30-minute mark, so I'm gonna skip a few questions. If you asked one and I didn't answer it this week, submit it again next week, and hopefully I'll get to it. But let's see. Here's a good one. Jaron Betis said, what is the story of how Foundation came to be in the beginning? So it also actually started in 2017 off-season, I believe. Paul was still with Innova. He was talking about wanting to start a disc golf pro shop. So me, Paul, and Nick Carl were sitting around my parents' table, like playing board games, and we were just kind of like throwing this idea around and what it would look like, and yada yada yada. And we actually came up with the name Foundation at that point and designed the logo that no one ever saw. It was a really bad logo, to say the least. No one ever saw it. It was like a tree trunk with roots, and I did a terrible job. Anyways, then shortly after that, Christmas came, the season started, we all forgot about it. Either forgot about it, didn't care, whatever. The next year, Paul and one of my friends, Zach, started having a similar conversation, and they were moving forward with it. And then Paul was like, oh, let's call Hunter. He can design the website, because that was kind of my role in the first part. And so he was like, hey, can we just pay you to design the website for Foundation? And well, actually, they weren't calling it Foundation at this point. I forget what it was going to be. Because we knew at this point he was going to be with Discraft, and part of Discraft, he wanted to launch this online store of some type. And so I was like, hey, I'll do it for free if you give me part of the business. If I can just have part ownership, I'll design the website and do all the graphic design up front for free. And so that's how it started. Me, Paul, and Zach. I forget what it was originally called. We then were like, you know what, Foundation was good when we had the idea before. Nick Carl at this point had moved back to Massachusetts, I think. And so we started Foundation in 2019, the spring of 2019. And that was it. The rest is history. That was kind of how it all started. What's funny is nowadays, I'm very much on like, what is Foundation's purpose? What's Foundation's mission? What are we all working towards? What are we building? What type of value are we providing to customers? Like all of that, right? When we started, it was just like, this is a fun idea. Let's just order some discs, try to sell them online. And then once we were doing that, it was like, hey, in order to do this, we got to let people know about it. So we can either spend money on Facebook advertising, but none of us really wanted to put money into this thing, or we can just make social media content. And so we just made social media content because it seemed like no other retailer was doing it. And that's how all of that started, and then kind of took off in, ways I never thought possible. I never even really considered when we were starting Foundation that it could be my full-time thing. I was just hoping like, hey, I'm gonna design the website instead of making, $1,000 or whatever. I'm gonna just design the website, and then hopefully over the course of a few years, I'll just make my money back, and, it is what it is. And then it just, took off, and the rest is history. So let me see. I want to come back to that question here in a second. This is another one I think a lot of people are curious about. Breezy Smalls said, curious why you have multiple YouTube channels. Would think that 2 would work, main and podcasts. So Foundation, as a company, has the Foundation main channel. We have the Foundation podcast channel, which is essentially just tour life, but also has debate night on it. We have the In the Bag channel. We have Grip Lock channel. And then we have the Foundation Disc Review channel that was recently just rebranded to Foundation Labs. Don't know if y'all caught that. Wonder why that is. Recently was rebranded to that. So we have 5 channels if you don't include the Robbie C channel, Trevor Staub channel, and the channel you're watching this, but I'm not going to include those because those are just like personality, do your own thing channels. So the Foundation company has 5. Why? Well, originally we had 1, just our main channel. Main channel had our main channel videos and then had Grip Locked on it. Well, some people want to watch the main channel, some people want to watch Grip Locked. So what happened is not every video was doing well, so it was telling the algorithm 2 different things. So you would upload a podcast, it would do much worse than when you uploaded a video. But then at that time, and still the algorithm works like this somewhat, is basically it was the next video sometimes would get pushed less after a podcast episode, if that makes sense. So we wanted to separate that. So that was the birth of Foundation Podcast, Foundation Main Channel, because then people who want the long form Grip Lock content could watch it on the podcast channel. The people who want the fun, goofy video content could watch it on the Disc Golf channel. The next split that eventually came was our disc reviews, because disc reviews were a different feel, right? We're trying to be this like fun entertainment, disc golf channel with our main channel, but then disc reviews are much more buttoned up, shorter content. And it was, again, trying to reach 2 different audiences. So why have them on the same channel? So we split off the Foundation Disc Golf Review, which is now Foundation Labs, but was Disc Golf Review channel. And the point behind that was we could upload disc golf reviews, not worry about how they did, just get the information out there for people who really, that was a very sales focused channel where we wanted to provide as much information to the potential purchaser pre-purchase. And that was that avenue. It didn't make sense on our main channel, so we did that. The podcast channel then added, at one point we had, I think the Nick and Matt show was always on its own, but they were under us at one point. The Bogey Bro Banter was on there, In the Bag, Tour Life, Debate Night, Pre-Tour Life, Debate Night, Post-Tour Life. All of that was on the podcast channel. And so a recent, as of like a year or 2 ago, year and a half ago now, I think, that started to split. Maybe it was less than a year ago. And the reason that split was we had, as the podcast grew, we had a podcast going up almost every night. and then you wanted to be able to do clips from those podcasts. So you had multiple videos going up in a day sometimes, which hurts, cannibalizes the potential reach of all of those. But also you had people who were just fans of Grip Locked and didn't want to watch Tour Life, but now if they turn the notifications on, they're getting notified for both, and vice versa. You had people who just wanted to be Tour Life fans, but now they're getting Grip Locked, or maybe they're fans of Tour Life and Grip Locked, but then they're getting In the Bag or whatever. So we split off the banter, which we've now killed that channel. We split off the banter, we split off Grip Locked, we split off In the Bag, and the next one to go is going to be Debate Night. And the reason behind that is you can just watch what you want to watch. So if you interact with the In the Bag channel a lot, you'll see that more and more. Or if you never want to see it, you don't interact with it, you'll never see it. So that's why. So let people personalize what they like to watch versus what they don't like to watch, and let us clip out. So like Tour Life can go happen on Tuesday live, have clips go up Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and not have to worry about, oh, well, In the Bag's going to happen Friday at 6, so I can't schedule a clip then. Now you don't have to worry about it. And I think that's all the channels we have. But that's essentially why, is it lets the audiences... I know some people who are like diehards and want to watch everything, they complain because now they have to subscribe or turn the notification on for like 7 different podcasts. But that's a very small minority. The majority of people like the main channel and like Grip Locked, or like just Tour Life and they don't like anything else, or they just like In the Bag and Grip Locked and they don't like anything else. And for those people, it's very nice to have it separate, and we've actually seen increase in revenue, increase in a lot of viewerships, and a lot more consistency across all of those by splitting it. But I wouldn't have split it. I would have done it the same way even if I rebuilt it, because you have to have the audience to split in order to split. If you started off and trying to juggle all those balls, it's just all going to fall. So, yeah. Okay. A lot of good questions in here I'm not going to be able to get to today. So, please, if you're one of those and you're listening to this, I'm sorry, but, and normally, yes, I would just run this for like an hour, but again, I'm at home and my son's taking a nap, and I would like to try to get a run in and eat some lunch before he wakes up, but that's a big ask when I just spent 40 minutes down here. So probably not going to have all of that happen, but so I'm gonna skip over some questions today, but, please ask them again. So we'll do this as the final one, because I actually don't know the answer to this, but I want to try to find the answer, which Brock said, what was the content this year that shocked you it didn't perform well? So here's some really good ones I want to get to later, different questions. If you don't ask them next week, I might remember, but I probably won't. So please ask your questions again next week. There's always videos that we upload that underperform that I'm like, why is that the one? And then there's ones that really overperform that I'm like, again, why is that the one that overperformed? Let me see if I can filter this the best way. Sort by one. I don't know if I can, because if I can't sort it by published this year, that's gonna be really difficult. Filter, visibility. No, not under that, not under that, not under that. Okay. All right. Well, so I'll just have to scroll. Let's see. The course conquest a lot of times can go up and down, but most of the time that doesn't surprise me, because a lot of times they're shorter pieces of content and YouTube rewards longer pieces of content. So I never get too shocked when that doesn't, hit well, because sometimes they're literally 15 minutes long, and our audience loves 45 plus minute long videos. So when we have one that's like 16 minutes and it gets 35,000 views, I'm not too shocked. Let's see. Anything else really underperform? You know what? I'm surprised this one didn't do better, which we lose money for every hole we don't birdie. I don't actually remember the premise of that video, but I like the title. So that one has 38,000 views. Would have expected that to do a little better. I am trying something new for Course Conquest, because I've noticed they're getting like consistently 40,000 views, which is fine. But that's at a point where, like, to give you reference here, okay, we'll just look at all these. He paid $600 for a disc golf auction battle, 58,000. Discraft put a saw blade inside a buzz, 76,000. Could we have won the FPO World Championship, 56,000. We built disc golf bags for each other from the U section, I think is what that is, 62,000. and then monthly or course conquest 42,000. So like you can see that it's underperforming the rest of the content around it at that time. So I'm trying a new thumbnail for today's course conquest, or maybe it's Thursday's. I don't know when this one comes out. I think it actually comes out Thursday's course conquest, to take, because right now it just says what level it is. I think that might be holding it back. You know what, I'm gonna say that what surprised me the most was our collab videos with pros at Worlds. The ones that we did with like the vlog squad, they did well. So like where's our first vlog squad collab? I actually don't see it. I don't know where the first one is, but like the other pros, so Missy Gannon World's practice round, I've tried re-thumbnailing this a few different times and I've just given up. 28,000 views. I think it's our worst performing video of the year. Then the one with Silas Schultz did fine, but we just said we convinced a Pro Tour player to play imposter, and then we put Aaron Gossage in a thumbnail and title. Aaron Gossage blew our minds at New London, only got 40,000 views. Gannon Burr, secretly a lefty. So that was the first one with the vlog squad, 95,000 views. That one makes sense. So what we did after that is, because originally we had Cole Redallen in a thumbnail and title, and it wasn't performing well, so we took Cole out of the title and thumbnail, and it performed better after that. Makes no sense. Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but very weird. So then what we did for the next one, which was an ace challenge with Casey White, we just didn't ever put him in the title and thumbnail. Ace or bust, the ultimate disc golf challenge. You just click on the video and Casey White happens to be in it. So we now have to be picky and choosy, because then we have Gannon Burr in the vlog squad again in a video, 67,000. So what we've learned this year that surprised me is there's only a few players that move the needle. If we put Simon in a video, boom. Like our Simon video is 270 some thousand views or something like that. If we put Paul in a video, if we put Brody in a video, those with our audience move the needle. If you put, as we just walked through, Missy Gannon, Cole Redallen, Aaron Gossage, all of those to me, I thought would make people click more than just a normal video, but they all made them click less than a normal video. And the only one that we changed from pre to post and watched was Cole Redallen. We had Cole in the title and thumbnail. It wasn't doing great. We pivoted. It's not doing phenomenal, but it's doing better. Excuse me. So that one is actually, that whole thing is really interesting to me. It's encouraging because we don't have to try it. It's discouraging because it's like, well, now there's no reason to try it. Because before it was like cool to, and it still is fun. We'll still do it. Don't hear me wrong on that. But like before, it was a cool idea of like, man, during the off season, we could like pay for pros to come to Lynchburg and like play rounds with them. But now it's like, well, if we do that, we'll literally get more views if we just build a bag for each other out of a U section and drive 10 minutes to Peachview Park. So unless it's just for fun, it makes less company sense. There are pros that move the needle and that it is worth it, and we'll still do collabs with pros, but now we know we have to be very picky and choosy. I think it's because when we put them in a title and thumbnail, it sometimes makes it look not as much like a foundation video, so therefore we reach less foundation people, and you know, it is what it is. Within the disc golf YouTube sphere, foundation's name and thumbnail title and all of that will just pull more weight than some pros at times. I'm not saying in the disc golf sphere, don't hear me wrong there either, but within the disc golf YouTube sphere, the brand we've built and the expectation from our audience, if we make it look not like foundation, then we'll actually lose it, even if it is a bigger name, like an Aaron Gossage, like a Missy Gannon, like a Cole Redallen. So then when we got to Casey White, we just didn't even put him in the thumbnail and title. So that was something that was interesting to me, those videos underperforming. But hopefully you enjoyed this rambling of Coffee Break. I think next week what I'll probably do is take a look back and do like the highs and lows of 2024 for Foundation. I think that'll be a fun little coffee break to walk down memory lane. I might do a book review in the first week of January, because I can't really, the tough part is I want to do what I'm excited about for 2025, but like I said, a lot of that stuff I can't tell you. So yet. I'll tell you soon, but I can't tell you yet. So One of them will be very early in January, you'll hear. The other ones, I don't know. I don't know the other three. So a lot of exciting stuff, though, coming. I'll talk to you all later. Merry Christmas. I hope y'all have an awesome, awesome Christmas. Let me know in the comment section, if you're still listening at this point, what your favorite Christmas tradition is. I love reading Christmas traditions. So let me know what you're looking forward to on Christmas tomorrow. I hope you have an awesome time, and I'll talk to you again next week.